In a galaxy governed by ancient traditions and honorable rules of engagement, war was a predictable, civilized affair. Fleets met in designated combat zones. Battles were fought according to established doctrines. It was a deadly, but orderly dance. Then the humans arrived. A young, primitive species from a backwater world. They didn't know the rules. They didn't understand the dance. And when they were hired to fight, they didn't just win. They shattered the very definition of war. The Galactic Concord, in its infinite wisdom, saw the danger. They issued a directive, a warning to all: do not involve humans in your wars. They thought a law could contain the uncontainable. They were wrong. What happens when a dying empire, with nothing left to lose, decides to ignore the Concord's most solemn warning? When 50 human soldiers with primitive weapons face a technologically godlike armada, what impossible strategy will they unleash? And how will the galaxy react when they discover that humanity's greatest weapon isn't a ship or a gun, but a philosophy of warfare so brutal, so efficient, and so utterly alien, that it will change the nature of conflict forever? Galactic Council cautions: do not involve humans in your wars. Before we dive into the chaos, take a moment to subscribe. Your support is our first and last line of defense. Like this video, and help us broadcast the truth to every corner of the galaxy. Alright, let's begin the story. Then, the Great Hall of the Galactic Concord stretched across 3 kilometers of polished, light-infused crystal. Representatives from 237 different species filled the vast space, a living tapestry of the galaxy's known life. High Archon Valerius stood at the center podium, his blue skin shimmering under the hall's artificial suns. His 6 arms moved in practiced, elegant gestures as he spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the translation devices that made this gathering possible. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Valerius began, his tone grave. We face a situation that requires immediate and unanimous action. Over the past year, we have received troubling reports from multiple sectors. These reports all concern a single species. The species that joined our community only recently. A low murmur filled the hall. The species in question calls themselves humans, Valerius continued. Most of you know them as the bipedal mammals from a small blue world in the Outer Rim. A primitive, but energetic people. Representative Kixall, a towering insectoid, stood. High Archon, why do these primitives concern us? Their technology is rudimentary. Their ships are slow. By their own admission, they still use chemical reactions to achieve orbit. That is precisely the problem, Representative, Valerius replied. He gestured, and a holographic display ignited above the podium. It showed a barren desert planet. 3 months ago, the mining colony on Carries 7 requested help with raiders. The local government hired 12 humans as a security detail. The display zoomed in, showing grainy footage. The raiders numbered over 200. They were equipped with advanced plasma weapons and shielded vehicles. The 12 humans arrived with projectile weapons, metal bullets fired by chemical explosives, technology our ancestors abandoned thousands of years ago. Valerius paused, letting the absurdity of the situation sink in. The human security team eliminated all 200 raiders in 6 hours. They used captured equipment, improvised traps made from mining tools, and tactics that violated every known principle of civilized warfare. They turned a simple defense contract into a planet-wide insurgency. The raiders surrendered after losing 3/4 of their force to 12 primitives with rifles. The hall buzzed with disbelief. There is more, Valerius continued. The hologram changed, showing a different star system. 5 weeks ago, the Elegant Twilight Corporation faced bankruptcy. Pirates, using cloaked vessels and quantum torpedoes, had destroyed 17 of their cargo ships. Desperate, the corporation hired 30 humans as convoy escorts. The new image showed sleek cargo ships moving between planets. Smaller, uglier ships darted around them. The humans arrived in converted mining vessels. No cloaking technology, no energy shields, no quantum weapons. They escorted 43 cargo runs. They did not lose a single ship. The entire pirate fleet was destroyed. The pirates, with their superior technology, never managed to land a single hit on any convoy under human protection. Now the hall was filled with real interest. How is this possible? Asked Representative Sylph from a peaceful garden world, her voice a musical chime. Our military analysts have studied human capabilities. They showed no exceptional combat abilities during first contact. Valerius's expression grew grim. That brings us to the third incident, the one that prompted this emergency session. The hologram changed again, showing a massive space station orbiting a gas giant. The research station on Mobius Prime requested protection from separatist attacks. Station security hired 8 humans. As consultants. 8. Representative Kicksal's voice rose in a high-pitched shriek of disbelief. They did more than protect it, Valerius replied. The separatists attacked with their full force. 40 ships, including 2 battlecruisers. The 8 humans convinced the station staff to implement what they called unconventional defensive measures. The hologram showed the space battle. It was chaos. The attacking ships seemed confused, firing at empty space, at phantom sensor readings, at each other. The humans turned the station's research equipment into weapons, Valerius explained, his voice strained. They used the main scanner array to project false fleets and scramble enemy targeting systems. They converted the station's gravity generators into spatial distortion mines. They even used the station's waste disposal system to launch projectiles at enemy ships. He took a deep, shuddering breath. But the worst part was what they called psychological warfare. They hacked the attacking fleet's communication systems in real time. They broadcast messages to the crews, personal messages, information about their families, their debts, their secret fears. Within 2 hours, half the separatist fleet had surrendered, their crews in a state of psychological collapse. The rest fled the system in terror. The hall fell utterly silent. High Archon, a delegate from the military academy, finally spoke. How did these humans obtain such detailed personal information about enemy crews in the middle of a battle? They obtained it during the battle, Valerius replied. They hacked enemy comms, cross-referenced public databases from their homeworlds, and somehow gathered and weaponized detailed psychological profiles in real time, all while coordinating the station's defense with trash. The crystalline delegation chimed in alarm. The Nebula folk pulsed angry red. What concerns us most, Valerius continued, is not what these humans accomplished. It is how. They do not follow our military doctrines. They do not respect the established rules of engagement. They adapt and improvise faster than any species we have ever encountered. He gestured, and the holographic display vanished. Therefore, I propose Directive 7749. Under no circumstances should any member species recruit, hire, or otherwise involve humans in military conflicts. This is not a suggestion. It is a matter of galactic security. The debate lasted for 7 hours. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. Every single representative voted in favor. They saw the directive as a simple precaution, a way to maintain the stable, predictable, honorable nature of galactic warfare. None of them realized they had just acknowledged a terrifying, fundamental truth. Humans did not wage war the way civilized species were supposed to. They waged it the way it was actually fought. And that made all the difference. 6 months passed. The Galactic Concord moved on. Directive 7749 was filed away, a minor footnote in the grand, slow-moving bureaucracy of galactic government. War-King Grak of the Cthar Empire had never paid attention to Concord directives anyway. Standing 3 meters tall with 4 muscular arms and skin like polished stone, he commanded his empire through strength alone. The Cthar were warriors. They had built their 12-system empire through conquest, battle fury, and a code of honor as unbreakable as their armor. Now, that empire faced extinction. Grak stood in his command center on the Cthar homeworld, watching the tactical display with growing despair. A sea of red symbols, representing enemy positions, was closing in. The Zaffron hegemony had arrived 3 weeks ago, their Fleet A. Swarm of technologically superior ships that dwarfed anything the Cthar could field. War-King, his sub-commander reported, his own voice heavy with defeat. The enemy has broken through our outer defenses. Their main fleet will reach the homeworld in 48 hours. Grak's 4 hands clenched into fists the size of small boulders. The Zaffrons fought with technology instead of honor. Their ships fired from impossible distances, their energy weapons cutting through Cthar armor like it was paper. Have we received responses to our calls for aid? Grak asked. The crystalline sovereignty expresses sympathy, but claims neutrality. The peaceful garden worlds offer medical supplies after our defeat. The machine collective calculates our chances of victory at 0.03%. Grak turned away from the display. His people were warriors, but strength meant nothing against an enemy who killed from 1,000 kilometers away. War King, the sub-commander said hesitantly. There might be one option. The intelligence division has a suggestion. Speak. They recommend hiring mercenaries. Grak snorted in disgust. We are Kthar. We do not hide behind hired weaklings. The intelligence division has identified one group that might be different. They come from a species called humans, the ones the Concord warned everyone about. The name sparked a vague memory. Concord politics bored him. What makes these humans special? Their military record is unusual, the sub-commander said, consulting his datapad. Small numbers, primitive equipment, but consistent, impossible victories. They are available for immediate deployment. How many can we hire? 50 soldiers. That is their entire available force in this sector. Grak almost laughed. 50 soldiers against the Zaffron fleet. It was suicide. But the Kthar Empire was dying anyway. Perhaps these strange mercenaries could buy his people time to find a more honorable death. Hire them, Grak commanded. If we must fall, let it not be said we did not try everything. The humans arrived 2 days later in a converted cargo ship that looked ready for the scrapyard. Grak watched their shuttle land in the main hangar with growing disappointment. The ship had no visible weapons, no advanced armor, no energy shields. The 50 humans who emerged from the shuttle were even less impressive. They stood barely 2 meters tall with pale skin and weak-looking limbs. Their equipment consisted of metal projectile weapons and primitive-looking body armor. Their leader introduced herself as Major Eva Rostova. She had short, dark hair and calm, brown eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the hangar, of his guards, of Grak himself. When she spoke, her voice carried an authority that surprised him. War King Grak, I presume. I'm Major Rostova, commanding officer of the Human Military Advisory Unit. Advisory Unit? Grak rumbled. I hired soldiers, not advisors. We prefer to work with local forces, Rostova replied smoothly. Our job is to help you win this war, not fight it for you. You have an army of warriors. You don't need 50 more. You need a new way to fight. Grak led the humans to the strategic planning room. The tactical display showed the approaching Zaffron fleet in all its terrible glory. As you can see, Grak explained, we face superior numbers and technology. The Zaffrons will establish an orbital blockade, then bombard our cities until we surrender. Major Rostova studied the display for several long minutes, her face unreadable. Her soldiers spread throughout the room, examining Kthar equipment, asking his officers quiet, pointed questions. Grak noticed they touched everything, testing surfaces, checking power connections, their curiosity boundless. Tell me about Zaffron battle doctrine, Rostova said finally. They rely on long-range engagement, Grak said. They fire from extreme distance using guided energy weapons. They maintain perfect formation discipline and never, ever engage in close combat. It is considered barbaric. What about their ground forces? Ground forces? Grak was confused. There will be no ground battle. They will bombard us from orbit. Rostova smiled. It was a small, unsettling expression, and Grak felt a strange chill run down his spine. War King, has anyone ever tried to board their ships? Board them? That is impossible. Their shields prevent any approach. They're shy. LDS stop energy weapons and large kinetic objects, Rostova said, as if stating the obvious. What about small, fast-moving projectiles? What about boarding pods disguised as industrial debris? Grak stared at the human. You want to attack their ships directly? From the inside? That is suicide. Maybe, Rostova agreed. But it's also something they will never expect. When was the last time anyone tried close-quarters combat against the Zaffrons? Never, Grak admitted. No one is that foolish. Rostova's smile grew wider. Exactly. Over the next 36 hours, Major Rostova and her 50 soldiers transformed the Kthar defense plan. They didn't command. They taught. They studied Zaffron ship designs, analyzed their communication patterns, and identified weaknesses that Kthar military analysts, blinded by their own warrior traditions, had never considered. The Zaffrons coordinate everything through their command ship, Rostova explained to Grak, pointing at the tactical display. It's the heart of their fleet. Take out their communications, and the fleet becomes a clumsy, blind giant. Their command ship is the most heavily defended vessel in the fleet, Grak countered. Which is why they won't expect a direct, suicidal assault on it, Rostova replied. She pointed to a schematic of a Kthar mining vessel. We'll use these. We'll strip out the mining equipment, add basic life support, and powerful thrusters. The Zafrans will see them as industrial debris from your orbital mines until it's too late. Grak felt his warrior spirit, dormant for weeks under the weight of inevitable defeat, begin to stir. This plan is insane. War King, Rostova said, her expression turning serious. My people have a saying. If you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics have failed. When the Zafran fleet arrived in orbit, they found exactly what they expected. A defeated enemy, hiding behind planetary shields, waiting for the inevitable bombardment. The Zafran admiral, Thor, a being of immense pride, ordered his fleet into standard battle formation and began charging the main weapons for the first orbital strike. What they did not expect was a cloud of small, fast-moving objects launching from the planet's surface, scattering in chaotic, unpredictable trajectories. Sensor report. Admiral Thor commanded from his bridge. Small objects detected, Admiral. Reading as industrial debris. Probably the remnants of their orbital mining facilities, destroyed in our approach. Thor dismissed them. That was his first and last mistake. The modified mining ships carried 50 human soldiers and 200 of the Kthar's fiercest volunteers. As they approached the Zafran fleet, Major Rostova's voice crackled over the comm system. Remember the plan. We're not here to destroy their ships. We're here to capture them. Every Zafran vessel we take makes us stronger and them weaker. The mining ships scattered throughout the enemy formation, moving too fast and too erratically for the Zafran's long-range, automated weapons to target effectively. When they reached their assigned targets, the real battle began. Human soldiers and Kthar warriors cut through the hulls of Zafran cruisers using plasma torches and shaped explosive charges. They stormed through corridors designed for tall, slender beings, adapting their tactics on the fly. They used captured Zafran energy weapons against their former owners. Most importantly, they did something the Zafrans had never, ever experienced before. They made them afraid. Admiral Thor of the Zafran hegemony had commanded fleets for 300 standard years. He had conquered 17 worlds without losing a single major engagement. Now, he stared at his command display in complete, logical bewilderment. Report, he commanded, his crystalline voice echoing through his pristine, orderly bridge. Admiral, we have lost contact with 12 vessels, including the primary communication relay, his tactical coordinator replied, its own synthesized voice showing a hint of static, the machine equivalent of panic. The enemy appears to be using our own ships against us. Thor's 4 optical sensors focused on the display. Red symbols, marking his captured ships, were moving through his perfect formation like a virus, targeting communication arrays and weapon systems with surgical, brutal precision. How many enemy vessels are we facing? Unknown, Admiral. Our sensors detect approximately 50 small craft, but they appear to be modified industrial ships. No significant weapon signatures. 50 mining ships have disabled 12 of our cruisers. Thor's voice rose in pitch. That is impossible, Admiral. The communications officer interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from the captured command ship. Display it. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of Thor's former flagship. A small, bipedal creature with pale skin stood where his trusted subcommander should have been. The creature's equipment looked primitive, but its eyes held an intelligence that made Thor deeply uncomfortable. Admiral Thor, the creature said in accented, but clear, galactic standard. I am Major Eva Rostova of the Human Military Advisory Unit. I believe we need to talk. You dare address me, primitive? Return my ships immediately, or your world will be turned to glass. Rostova tilted her head slightly. Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not trying to destroy your fleet. We're trying to capture it. The statement was so absurd that Thor's internal processors nearly crashed. Capture my fleet? You command 50 obsolete mining ships against the most advanced military force in this sector. Actually, Rostova replied, a small smile playing on her lips. "We now command 50 mining ships plus 12 of your heavy cruisers. And that number is about to increase." As if on cue, alerts began sounding throughout Thor's bridge. 3 more of his ships reported boarding actions. Enemy forces had somehow appeared inside their hulls without warning. "How?" Thor demanded. "Our shields prevent any unauthorized approach. Your shields stop energy weapons and large objects," Rostova explained patiently, as if to a child. "They don't stop small, sensor-spoofed pieces of debris containing human soldiers in vacuum suits. We've been floating past your defenses for the last hour, disguised as wreckage." Thor watched in horror as his tactical display updated. Red symbols were spreading through his formation like a plague. "This is not how civilized warfare is conducted," Thor protested. "You violate every established protocol." Rostova's expression grew serious. "Admiral, there's something you need to understand about humans. We don't fight civilized wars. We fight wars to win. All species fight to win." "No," Rostova replied. "Most species fight to prove superiority, to demonstrate technological advancement, to maintain honor. Humans fight to survive. And when we fight to survive, we use every advantage available." As Rostova spoke, more alerts flooded Thor's bridge. The humans were turning captured Zafran technology against its creators. Energy weapons designed by Zafran engineers now fired on Zafran shields. "Admiral," his tactical coordinator reported, "the enemy is adapting our technology faster than our countermeasures can respond. They appear to understand our systems better than we do." Thor studied the tactical display with growing despair. His perfectly coordinated fleet had become a chaotic mess. "How are they learning our systems so quickly?" he demanded. Rostova answered through the comm link, as if she could hear his thoughts. "Admiral, human military doctrine includes something called adaptive warfare. We study our enemy's equipment while we're fighting them. Every captured system teaches us something new." "What do you want?" Thor asked finally, the words tasting like poison. "We want you to leave Cthar space and never return," Rostova replied. "In exchange, we will return your ships and your crews, unharmed." "And if I refuse?" Rostova's expression remained calm, but Thor sensed something deeply dangerous beneath her composed exterior. "Admiral, humans have another saying. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. We've shown you what we can do with 50 soldiers and some mining ships. Do you really want to see what we can do if we stop being polite?" As if to emphasize her point, the captured ships began moving into attack formation around Thor's remaining fleet. Zafran weapons on Zafran ships powered up, targeting their former sister vessels. "This is unacceptable," Thor declared. "The Zafran hegemony does not retreat. We will call for reinforcements. We will bombard the planet." "No, you won't," Rostova interrupted. "Because as of 5 minutes ago, we now control your orbital bombardment platforms." New alerts cascaded across Thor's display. The human boarding parties had reached his fleet's heavy weapon ships. The massive orbital strike platforms that were supposed to reduce the Cthar cities to rubble now aimed their planet-killer weapons at the remaining Zafran fleet. "You would use our own weapons against us?" Thor asked in disbelief. "Admiral," Rostova replied, her voice utterly calm. "We would use anything that helps us win. That's what makes humans dangerous. We don't limit ourselves to appropriate weapons or honorable tactics. We use whatever works." Thor found himself facing a choice no Zafran admiral had ever confronted. His technologically superior fleet was being systematically dismantled by an enemy using his own weapons. "Your terms?" he asked through gritted teeth. "Immediate withdrawal. Full retreat. No return visits for 50 standard years. In exchange, we return your ships, your crews, and your dignity." "And if we agree?" Rostova smiled, and Thor finally understood why the Galactic Concord had issued that bizarre, panicked warning about human involvement in warfare. "Then you get to go home and explain to your superiors how 50 humans convinced the entire Zafran fleet to leave voluntarily. The choice was simple: humiliation or annihilation." "We accept your terms," Thor said. "Excellent," Rostova replied. "Admiral, it has been a pleasure doing business with you. I hope we never meet again under similar circumstances." As the Zafran fleet began its humiliating withdrawal, Admiral Thor realized something that chilled him more than military defeat. The humans had not just beaten him. They had changed the fundamental nature of warfare. And once that knowledge spread throughout the galaxy, nothing would ever be the same.